Welcome to My Irish Radio Music and Culture News, your connection to everything happening in the world of Irish music and culture. I'm Jamie Flanagan. Each episode will share the latest news from Ireland's vibrant music scene, from traditional and folk to rebel ballads, pub tunes, Celtic rock, and today's top Irish pop. We'll also bring you updates on festivals, cultural events, and people keeping Irish heritage alive around the world. And remember, My Irish Radio is more than just a station. It's your community, your soundtrack, your voice. You can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com and through the links in the podcast description below. Here's the best part. You can be part of it. Host your very own show on My Irish Radio. Choose your playlist, share your stories, make My Irish Radio your Irish Radio. Let's get into what's happening this week in Irish music and culture.
Today, we're taking a look at a really interesting snapshot of modern Irish life. It's a sort of digest covering, well, everything. We've got huge music tours, new rap tracks, right through to major political changes, and even calls for global architecture entry. So our mission here is to kind of pull all these diverse threads together for you, give you a quick but hopefully deep sense of what's really driving Ireland right now.
Absolutely. And when you look at this collection of news, what really jumps out is how Ireland seems to be running on these two parallel tracks. You've got this real celebration of, deep-rooted traditions, very established stuff. But at the same time, there's this incredibly energetic contemporary evolution happening. It's quite profound. And I think we see this tension, this interplay, most clearly in the music scene, actually, and also in how Irish cultural figures are sort of using their influence around the world.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that, starting with the sound, the music. Because the scale of some of the established pop acts is just, it's an incredible force, but culturally and economically. I mean, look at Westlife, their 25th anniversary tour. It's become this genuine phenomenon. They've just added 5 more days in Dublin. That brings the total at the 3 Arena to 10 nights. 10. Scheduled for 2026, mind you. That's a number, isn't it? 10 nights. The 3 Arena holds, what, around 13,000 people? Yeah. So you're talking about a massive audience. That kind of enduring appeal, that nostalgia combined with global pop machinery. Yeah. It's a huge economic engine. But like you said, the really interesting cultural bit is seeing how that massive success sits right next to these emerging, sometimes quite niche genres that are defining what's next.
Exactly. That contrast is fascinating. So on one hand, you've got the pop and folk tradition going strong, like Janet Devlin releasing the deluxe edition of Not My First Emotional Rodeo. It's familiar territory, but still evolving. Then there's Luz. She's half Irish, half Argentinian, releasing The Minute You're Gone. And it's described specifically as a tender apology song. So that blend of identity, that vulnerability, it's still really central to that singer-songwriter vein.
Mm-hmm. And that theme of blended identity, it gets even maybe deeper with the Irish Lassies. Their new album, Immigration Stories, is explicitly fusing Appalachian folk sounds with traditional Celtic harmonies. They're actually taking that historical experience, people leaving Ireland in the 18th and 19th centuries, and giving it this modern musical voice. It's acknowledging how those global roots, that diaspora experience, really defines contemporary Ireland too.
Right. But just when you think it's all about harmonies and, heartfelt apologies, you look at the complete other end of the spectrum. The contemporary edge is, well, it's sharp, unexpected maybe for some listeners. Irish rapper Youngiz just released a drill tune called Sharks, featuring elves.
Yeah, and what's really interesting there is how quickly the sound of Dublin, the urban sound, is evolving. For people listening who might not know, drill is a subgenre of rap music. It's known for often quite a gritty sound, realistic narrative, sometimes about street life. Its presence, like right there in the mix, shows that this really powerful, hard-edged voice is now just an established part of the modern Irish music scene.
Absolutely. And you see a similar kind of raw energy in rock, too. Gather the Lost, an alternative band from Dublin. Yeah. They've just put out Never Home.
So the whole ecosystem, it's clearly buzzing for the big names and the new acts, and the numbers seem to back that up, don't they? The appetite is there. The Guinness Cork Jazz Festival, for instance, is apparently attracting over 100,000 visitors just this week. That's huge. And there's also that crucial support for finding the next wave of talent, the discovery process. Like the Hard Rock Cafe in Dublin is kicking off a Battle of the Bands competition this Thursday. And there are plans for the Borderline Festival to return that one focuses specifically on emerging international and Irish acts. So that ground level, nurturing the talent, it seems incredibly active. It's making sure the pipeline, whether it's for the next Westlife or the next Youngiz, is always being refilled.
Okay, right.
You're listening to My Irish Music and Culture News, brought to you by My Irish Radio, streaming the best in Irish and Celtic music all day, every day. From classic jigs and reels to the latest Irish rock and pub favorites, we celebrate the sound of Ireland worldwide. Want to be more than a listener? Be a host. Share your love for the Irish music by hosting your own show on My Irish Radio. It's easy to get started. Just send us an email, myirishradio@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com. Make My Irish Radio your Irish radio.
Let's shift gears completely now. Because the influence of Ireland, it's not just on the music charts. It's definitely felt on the global stage too, which means we need to look at some political shifts and global advocacy.
Yeah, this is a really crucial pivot. It gets into the kind of institutional context for all this cultural activity. We've got a major leadership update. Catherine Connolly has been elected as the new president of Ireland. Now, it's important to remember the Irish presidency is, well, largely ceremonial, but it carries immense symbolic weight, cultural weight. The president really acts as the ultimate cultural ambassador for the nation, you could say.
Right, understanding that role, the president, as this embodiment of national culture, it makes the updates about the outgoing president, Michael D. Higgins, important context. The sources confirm he was taken to St. James's Hospital. It was precautionary, an overnight stay, and he received antibiotics. It's just a key piece of information when you're talking about a figure who holds such a significant national symbol of leadership, especially during a transition.
Mm-hmm. And what also stands out in this sort of political snapshot is how complex the domestic conversations are right now. We have to note the reports mentioning new and ongoing discussions about anti-immigrant episodes in Northern Ireland. Now, just to be clear, we're reporting what the sources mention here. But the significance is that these discussions about identity, about welcome, about community, they seem to be very much front of mind. And that creates quite a challenging a multi-layered environment for the new president to step into.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of influence and sort of the weight that Irish figures carry, you see that globally too. Specifically, thinking about the diaspora again. The actor Liam Neeson, he visited South Sudan recently, and he used his star power, his platform, to strongly condemn the aid cuts happening there.
This is where that cultural connection becomes almost a kind of moral authority, isn't it? Neeson didn't just go for a photo op. He used his voice very clearly. He stated, quite emphatically, that children shouldn't have to fend for themselves. That power of the diaspora, someone who is instantly recognizable worldwide as an Irish icon, it allows them to kind of redirect that cultural spotlight onto really serious international humanitarian issues. It gives those issues an extra layer of maybe gravitas.
Definitely. That global reach is quite profound. Okay, let's pivot back towards the arts now, specifically looking at architectural futures and cultural recognition, sort of the forward planning on one side and the immediate successes happening right now.
Right. And this is where we see Ireland quite consciously defining its identity for the future. Culture, Ireland is already looking ahead, 3 years ahead, actually. They're putting out a call, searching for expressions of interest from people who want to curate Ireland's national representation at the 2027 International Architecture Exhibition in Venice.
Yeah, and I think we should maybe emphasize why this Venice thing is such a big deal. It's not just some design show. It's often called like the Olympics of architecture. It's huge. That exhibition space, the National Pavilion, it's basically a country's chance to make a formal global statement about its culture, its philosophy, its future direction. So choosing that curator, that's going to be a really defining decision for Ireland's global image in the late 2020s.
Exactly. And while they're making those big plans for 2027, you've got contemporary artists getting major recognition right now. In the present, Dan Colley and the Lost Lear Company, for example, they just picked up a Fringe First Award in Edinburgh.
Right, and for anyone listening who isn't familiar, a Fringe First Award, that's a really big deal at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, which is enormous itself. It basically signifies major international validation for brand new theatrical work. So yeah, you've got the architects planning the future statement and theater companies validating the creative output of the present moment. It's happening simultaneously.
And we also see tradition being, well, both maintained and, interestingly, commercially explored. The sources mention this ongoing cultural discussion around the recent revival, or maybe resurgence, of Irish traditional music, and this revival seems to be inspiring new creative content, too. The Irish Times, for instance, recently reviewed a new period drama, and it's focused on the history of the Guinness brewing dynasty in Dublin. That's quite a potent connection, right? Using those deep historical roots, that iconic brand, to create popular media today.
Yeah, definitely. And the sources also noted broader arts coverage, too. Reviews of Emma Martin's choreography, a play about the Irish actor Constance Smith. It just shows how active the general cultural commentary is. And yeah, because we're looking at a comprehensive digest, there was even a quick mention of media gossip about the BBC apparently looking for successors for the Strictly hosts, Daly and Winkleman, which, it just anchors the whole digest in that wider popular culture landscape.
Okay, so let's try and bring these different strands back together now. Pull the analysis kind of full circle, thinking about community, the diaspora, and those all-important connections. Because all this cultural activity, it really feeds into that global Irish experience.
Yeah, and the sources show that enduring connection really vividly through sports, specifically the start of the Boston GAA Championships. Now, GAA is the Gaelic Athletic Association. And these championships happening in Boston are critical community events. They reinforce those community ties thousands of miles from Ireland, linking the local Irish diaspora through shared heritage, through sport. It's a living link.
Exactly. And that community isn't just relying on history or nostalgia. It's being actively invested in structurally. We saw the note that the Irish Cultural Center in Greater Boston just welcomed a new staff member, Declan Crowley, this week. That kind of continued investment in the actual infrastructure of the community ensures that the diaspora remains this thriving, active connection point for Ireland and with Ireland.
Right. And that structural support, that community building, it almost needs a narrative to bind it all together.
Yeah.
Which brings us right back, interestingly, to the music. Specifically, the Irish Lassies. Remember their album on immigration stories, blending Appalachian and Celtic folk? That musical project, focusing on the story of displacement, of making a new home, of maybe eventual reunion, it perfectly soundtracks the very community infrastructure and feeling that we see being supported in places like Boston. It all connects.
So what does all this mean for you listening right now? We've taken this pretty deep dive into a really comprehensive snapshot of modern Ireland. And it's clearly a dynamic place, sometimes even contradictory, you could say. You've got the massive nostalgia draw of Westlife running right alongside the hard edge of drill music like Youngis. You have significant political transitions happening at the highest symbolic level of the state. And you have these global cultural icons like Liam Neeson using their platform for, serious human rights advocacy. That whole conversation around identity, history, tradition, the future, it's all happening right now, very visibly.
So hopefully you've received that rapid and thorough briefing we aimed for. You should now have a clearer understanding of the sheer complexity of the current cultural landscape in and around Ireland.
And if we just connect this to the bigger picture one last time, here's maybe a final provocative thought for you to consider, something to mull over. What immediate impact will the election of this new president of Ireland, who, remember, carries that huge symbolic cultural weight, what impact will that combine with the energy around the traditional music revival we mentioned? What impact will that have on Ireland's overall cultural confidence, maybe? And thinking ahead, how will those internal shifts, that internal mood, guide the national story they ultimately choose to represent on that huge global stage at the 2027 Venice Architecture Biennale? What stories of tradition and indeed modernity will they choose to tell the world then?
That's it for this episode of My Irish Radio, Music and Culture News. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you can hear the best in Irish and Celtic music 24 hours a day at myirishradio.com. If you ever dreamed of sharing your favorite tunes and stories, now's your chance. Become one of the hosts. Host your own show right here on My Irish Radio. Just send us an email. It's easy as that. myirishradio@gmail.com. Until next time, it's Jamie Flanagan. Keep the music playing and keep Ireland in your heart.